Hello and welcome to Happy Horror Time. My name is Tim Murdoch.
And my name is Matt Emmerd, and today's special guest starred as Shelly in Sam Raimi's 1981 horror classic, The Evil Dead, as in the original film that kicked off a franchise with 4 feature films and a 5th one on the way later this year, a television series, various comics, video games, and even a musical. The franchise is still very much alive today. Unlike her character from the film who got thrown into a fireplace and then chopped into pieces after biting her own hand off. You know, just your everyday stuff. We are so excited to welcome to the podcast, Theresa Tilly. Woo! Hi.
Okay. Clapping.
I know that we have claps galore. You know, look, before we even dive into questions, when we were researching you online, we found out something about you that I had to bring to your attention. Are you ready for this?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think you're going to like this because I really did. You and I share the same birthday, November 6th.
Oh, that is sweet.
I just was like, you know, I know that has nothing to do with anything
I
listeners
thought it was
care about.
Evil Dead related.
I just thought that was really cool. You're a fellow Scorpio on the exact November 6th, same day as me.
Well, happy birthday.
Just thought that was really cool. But you also share something in common with Tim because I read that you used to do stand-up comedy.
I did.
Yes, did you do it before or after or during The Evil Dead?
Well, it's interesting that it's a good segue into the movie because basically what happened is I was dating a comedian.
That sounds like trouble already.
But I was very interested in comedy in the 80s. Was like, there was a lot going on in the Detroit area, which is where I'm from. And so I was dating a guy and he was like an MC. And I thought, oh, this is really cool. Anyway, then I got the movie to make Evil Dead. And after that movie, I said, I am never doing another movie. I need to get out on my own and create my own production so that I am not beholden to, you know, producers or whatever. And so I started doing stand-up. And half of it was that I did have this relationship. So, you know, Mark Kornhauser, he ended up in Vegas, very funny, magic. I also did magic. He gave me some magic tricks that were very funny, where I'd get a guy up on stage and pull scarves out of his pants.
Oh.
Yeah, so I'd get him on stage, and then he'd hold one handkerchief, and I'd hold the other scarf. And he'd pull it out, and the audience thought that I had pulled out his underpants.
That's fun.
I love that because that was our next question, because again, looking and like on IMDb and things like that, it mentioned that you had dated a magician and assistant. It also mentioned that you were a backup dancer for a Vegas singer. Can you tell us about that?
Ellen and Betsy, the other 2 ladies who were in The Evil Dead, constantly make fun of me for that because it was the name of the group was called Paula Cricchio and His Many Moods. So they always tease me like, well, which mood were you? Were you know, his bad mood? There were some Vegas style clubs in Detroit, and this guy was Paula Cricchio. He was a Vegas act, and he created his show in Detroit, and I was one of the dancers.
That sounds like a blast.
Are we talking like hip hop dance or like
Vegas style
like
showgirl?
Vegas like show? Okay. I didn't know. Anytime I hear backup dance, I'm not quite.
I think
sure.
of like Janet Jackson.
That's what I was thinking too. Yeah. Wow, that is quite an assorted type of like
so much
resume.
fun.
Like before, you know, around there.
And growing up, were you a fan of horror films?
Never.
Oh,
it's always disappointing to people.
No, it's okay.
That's
But
okay.
were there any that like had an impact on you or that you knew of that made you not like horror?
Well, I always, it did frighten me mainly. And so it's kind of like a roller coaster. Why would you go in it if you're going to be scared? Which is how I felt about horror movies. I'm trying to think if I did see. I mean, I saw The Shining when it came out. I can't remember what year that.
1980.
Oh, so that was after I made Evil Dead. Okay, so then there was Psycho. I think I did see Psycho and I liked it, but that's not really blood and gore.
Right. It's all psychological.
Yeah, but definitely horror. I mean, it is scary. Like, sometimes psychological stuff is scarier than the blood and gore,
Yeah, the blood and gore part never appealed to me.
And that's very interesting because your film...
I was just going to say, speaking of that, it's a perfect segue into The Evil Dead, which has no blood and gore. Not at all. No. Okay, so we... this is something I'm sure you've talked about before, but we wanted to ask you, how did you first hear about the film, and what was the audition process like for the role of Shelly? Because we've heard many crazy stories about these first meetings with, like, Sam Raimi and people and stuff. So how did you first hear about it, and what was the audition process?
Well, there are a lot of rumors out there. I mean, Bruce Campbell actually thinks that he knew my dad, but he didn't. So there was my dad's CPA firm. Actually, one of the accountants ended up doing the bookkeeping for Renaissance Pictures. That had nothing to do, those. It's a small town. It's Detroit. But we didn't know that when I met them. It was really straightforward, like most other actors. I just got an audition notification from my agent, and I met with them, and the audition was kind of weird. It was down in Sam's mother's basement.
Which is always a good place for a first meeting.
Did they give you a script beforehand?
No. They never gave us a script. The script is so light. I mean, if you could see the script, it's like Cheryl runs into the woods. They attack her. That's the explanation for what happens to Cheryl. And we all know that it's much more detailed. Yeah. So it was very sparsely written, just sort of an outline. Although I must say the 14 lines I had in the movie were in the original script.
And so did you have to perform, like, did you only audition for Shelly, or did you audition for any of the other ladies?
I didn't know what I was auditioning for, and I didn't have the script. Basically, Sam met with us. I think Bruce was there too, and maybe some of the other guys. It was always like a posse of guys from Sam's high school. They went to high school.
Yes, we heard.
I did not know any of them from the school. I was a little bit older than they were, but I didn't go to the same school or anything. So I just basically went to his house. The setup was a folding chair, and he just had me sit in the folding chair and scream, and then like move forward, like scream like you're just hit by a car, and then maybe I said a couple lines, and that was really it.
Were you like, this is a movie I want to be in?
I want to audition. I think I can do it.
I love that, because especially you not loving horror, were you kind of just like, well, whatever, I'll do it. This seems fun kind of thing.
You have to understand, there were no feature films being made in Detroit, especially at my level of acting. I mean, I was doing like dinner theater and puppet shows for kids, and
I love puppet shows for kids.
I had my own puppet show. I bring the stage, set it up in the mall, and I had different puppets.
Oh my gosh! You are a lady of many talents.
My nephew loves puppet shows. We've gone to a few. Like that's so cool. So so Detroit, it wasn't a big thing in it. When I'm wondering, when you got the part, when they told you got the part, did they show you the short film Within the Woods that the movie was playing? Oh no.
No. I had no idea.
Wow. Oh, so there was no reference. Script was very light. You just knew it was a horror movie that took place in a cabin with demons?
And did he film your audition scene?
If they did, I didn't. It's not. Everything was different. Maybe 8mm they did. I don't know. I really don't know.
That's funny.
I mean, I love we're asking questions for you of something that happened 40 years ago. Like, I can't remember what I did yesterday.
I know. Well, so anyone who's seen this film before, and I'm sure that's literally everyone who's listening to this podcast, knows that there is no Theresa Tilly listed in the credits, and the person who plays Shelly instead is Sarah York. So tell us, who is the imposter, Sarah or Theresa?
It's an unfortunate story that, really isn't all that interesting. It's just that I had just literally 2 weeks before I got this part been allowed to enter Screen Actors Guild. And it's a whole catch-22. You have to work before you can get in, but you can't work unless you're in. And I finally figured out how to manage that, and I got in the union. And this film came in, and I said, guys, I'd love to do the movie, but I just got in the union, and are you doing a union production? Oh, yeah, we'll definitely talk to the union. Well, a few months go by, nobody talks to anybody. The union doesn't talk to them, they don't talk to the union, and they're like calling me up and saying, hey, are you ready to go? We're leaving, tomorrow. And I'm like, I'm just gonna do it. I got some advice from some people, but I thought no one's ever gonna see this movie. And once I was down on the set, when we all talk about this frequently, no one is ever going to see this movie. Seeing the way it was produced and the way we were just vomiting milk and peanut butter and whatever they had handy and Caro syrup, I was still not worried. But I thought, you know what, I'm just going to use a fake name because, I don't want to get in trouble.
I get it. SAG I would not want to be on SAG's bad side.
How did you come up with the fake name? Any weird story?
My niece had just been born. She was named Sarah. And I had envisioned myself going to New York. I just made up this name, Sarah York.
I love it.
And of course the union did catch me and Scotty, who was also in the same boat as me. And we were fined and expelled, suspended. I mean, nowadays this would never happen.
Right. Wow, they really went out and caught it. Wow, and then fined
because
you.
The movie is so awesome, it was on everyone's radar.
And now they're like, where can we? We're gonna find them for that. Wow, that is crazy. Well, thank you for clearing that up. Also, there's a lot of rumors about how Sam Raimi was able to fund this film because I think he was only like 20 at the time and had to ask like his parents or his parents' friends and doctors and lawyers. I'm not sure how much you know specifically about this, but what did you know at the time, or do you know now about how he was able to actually get funding for this film?
Well, I know there still are people that show up at our conventions who I think were backers in the movie. I mean, like friends, and I mean, he did go through all of his parents' friends, and they were, I won't say they were wealthy, but they had a nice life. His mother owned a beautiful lingerie store where we got our underwear from.
Oh.
Lulu's Lingerie.
Ooh, Lulu's Lingerie. Are they still around? Are they still around?
Matt and I will get it for our girlfriends.
Oh yeah, that's the funniest thing you've said today.
Oh,
Yes, tons of girlfriends, Theresa. Anyway, so you said backers still come up, and it's just like because he went through all these different parents' friends.
Well, I think the parents have jived, but the kids are now inherited the backing thing or something. They're like, they'll say, oh, my father, has 10% in Evil Dead or something like that. Yeah, they did whatever they needed to do, and they had a nice, well-to-do neighborhood that they lived in, and people could probably throw in 10 grand, and it wasn't a big deal.
Right.
Wow.
This is, me just sort of embellishing a concept. I don't really know for sure, but I know that a lot of people did kick in some money.
It's tough to make a movie. I mean, it takes the village.
Yeah, well, and it takes money.
And it takes money.
Yeah. So you've spoken about how I think you started filming back in 1979, I think. Yeah, and that the whole cast and crew, the actors, had to share a house that was near the cabin in Tennessee. So you were all together in that house. What was that like, sharing that with everyone? Because, I mean, I know, like you said, Sam and Bruce and Ellen had grown up together. Did it feel like you were kind of like entering into already like a close-knit group?
That is part of the reason that when we see each other, because we do these conventions and we all just love hanging out because for a night or two, because it was kind of like it's like a high school reunion or something. I mean, I never went away to college, so this was sort of my dorm life kind of thing. And so it was an adventure. The three girls, we had our own bedroom. I think maybe it was a 2-bedroom house or something. So all the extraneous people, and there were a lot that would come and go, and helping. All of his friends came down at one point or another, and they'd be involved that day on the shoot. And they'd all just sleep on the couch. I'll never forget one day I got up in the middle of the night and I'm walking through the living room, and Sam and Bruce and I don't know, a few different people are just lying on the floor asleep, and there's the dailies going around flipping on the reel. You can hear it flap, flap, flap. Nobody, was awake to turn off the movie thing.
Oh my gosh. And I'm assuming there was no reshoots or going back out there. Like, it was like, we're here, we're going to film it.
Well, they did reshoot after they came back. They reshot. Tom Sullivan, who was the illustrious makeup artist and effects guy, he lived in Marshall, Michigan, which is kind of a little offbeat town. And apparently they shot, I was not part of that, but I know that they had to redo a couple scenes that were related to the cellar, and they shot that in his garage or something.
Yeah, because I know we had read that the cabin didn't actually have a cellar. So when you would pretend to go down in the cellar, there was nothing there, and then the cellar scenes were filmed at a different time. But you don't actually go into the cellar. It's just the two men, so you didn't have to do that filming.
No, none of the girls. Well, Ellen gets trapped in the cellar. But she gets kicked in the cellar. Yes. But we just look over the cellar and go, "Are you all right?"
So are you just looking at the ground then, right? I love that. I love when you're like, the audience sees something in the actors, it's completely different. Obviously, Sam Raimi has gone on to direct huge blockbusters like the Spider-Man movies and even the latest, Doctor Strange Marvel film. So I'm sure his directing style has probably changed just a little bit over the last 40 plus years. But wanted to know, from your experience, what was he like as a director back then? Any fun stories from working with him or his style?
Well, it's funny you say he's probably changed. I was on the shoot for Oz the Great and the Powerful. So that's, even though that was in 2011, he had definitely evolved in his directing style. He had a suit on, and I'm going like, what? Who is this? But it was great. I was there for a long time, like about a month. And he still had a lot of his similar style of collaboration with the actors. So there would be the scene where James Franco, who plays the great and powerful Oz, is coming down, and he would say to the hordes of munchkins and people who live in the town, I was one of them, well, what would you say if the great and powerful Oz was coming? And people just shouted out things, and he said, I like that. You say that, and you say that. And it was just like, it felt like we were all doing it together, which was always the way it was on Evil Dead 2.
It was collaboration.
Yeah.
It was a lot of collaboration. It didn't even feel like, we were really making a movie, though, the repeating and the terrible hours and all the taping and stuff. But it was so, like, chill, in terms of getting it right, or it was really a collaboration.
That's nice
to hear. It looks like a blast. Well, I mean, it looks like so much fun.
Well, and also, but you could always, I'm sure there's some people who, as they become more famous or work on bigger movies with bigger budgets, maybe they could become more, I guess, diva-ish. But it sounds like Sam isn't that type of director.
If he is, I didn't see it. He was very accessible, just easygoing. He's kind of a, eccentric person anyway. I mean, wearing a suit to the set and things like that. He's got his little quirky things, but he's pretty accessible and friendly and just very sweet. On Evil Dead, we would, all shoot. And then we'd all go buy groceries together, or it was like we were kind of doing it was like what do you call that when you're all living together?
Sorority, fraternity.
Commune. It was like,
oh God. There's that too.
Or that.
I was thinking cult, but it's going no.
Cultish, but we had to. And Tom Sullivan, the makeup artist, was always cooking stuff for makeup in the kitchen, like in pots. So you didn't know if you were going to be ladling out like chicken bones that were going to be in the movie that afternoon, or whether you were supposed to eat that. The lines were very blurry between life and shooting the movie.
That's hilarious. Before we get to your big and brutal death scene, because we're definitely going to cover that, because I mean, who wouldn't? We've got to talk about poor Cheryl's attack in the woods, just because, it's so disturbing and controversial. And I think you've said that none of the women knew during filming that it would be edited to look like the branches were sexually assaulting Cheryl. So I was wondering, what can you tell us about how the scene was written, your reaction to it the first time you saw it, and then what Sam Raimi has said about it in retrospect?
Well, like I referred to earlier, the script said the woods attack Cheryl. That was what the script said. And so none of us had any clue, and that it was going to be like, a rape scene with a tree. So and even as we shot it, like I said, it was very like a commune. So we'd all go out, not every scene, but a lot of scenes, we'd all be together. And the girls kind of had to, help each other out, because it was this, a group of young guys. I mean, they were all very sweet, but,
It's a boys' club.
Yeah. It's like, yeah.
Right. In this house, it was a pigsty. But that's just, I grew up with 6 brothers and sisters.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, okay.
So you were, this is nothing.
Well, which was gorier, Evil Dead or that situation?
I'm with my family.
I
have 2 older brothers, so I can only imagine.
I only have a sister, so I have no idea what you're talking about. But anyway, go on. You said that the ladies were helping during that scene film.
We would help each other, and in that particular night, she had to be in that scanty little
a robe or something.
Not a negligee, but like just pajamas. Not really pajamas, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
She had on a little short nightgown, and her underwear was showing, and we all thought, oh, Helen. And it was cold too, and she couldn't have shoes on. She was running through the woods that hadn't really been prepared. It's not like they laid down, something for her feet, or they just had to run through the woods.
Yikes.
Yeah, so we were trying to help and, just assist her like if a makeup person were there helping you and keeping her warm, which we did that for each other. Like, it was so cold. And then the scene with the limbs, they attached the limbs to one to each thigh, and Betsy, I believe it was her, had one leg and I had the other. And we literally pulled these branches down her leg.
But were you pulling her legs apart at the time? Sorry to go into so much detail. I'm just trying to think, like, if you were wondering, like, what are we doing here, like, with them?
I guess we didn't really think about it as being a sexual moment. It was like they grabbed her legs, and we were the tree pulling down her leg. And I don't really remember the positioning of her legs and why they were expanded like that. But now that you're mentioning it.
As a kid, it went completely over my head. But as an adult,
I just remember being like, well, first it's like you have to think that these branches are attacking you. But then I was like, wait, am I seeing what I think I'm seeing? But like, yeah. So when you first saw it, what was your reaction when you first saw how the scene turned out?
Well, let me tell you, I was with my parents
Oh my gosh.
in the movie theater. They thought the whole thing was ridiculous anyway. They thought my whole life was ridiculous.
Good old parents.
Let's just not go there. But and they're very religious, and so I also had a scene where I had to lift up my shirt.
Yes.
Also not in the script. And I was down on the set for a couple of weeks, and they're like, hey, we really need you to, lift up your shirt.
Which, by the way, I've just got to say, like, that scene, it seems like it wasn't as necessary. Did they just want some, like, extra nudity, I guess? I mean, again, maybe Sam can answer that. But it's like, yeah, sometimes you watch 80s films and you're like, I don't know if that person had to be naked or if they just wanted a little extra, like, nudity for it. But sorry, go on.
No, probably. There's certain protocol that is encouraged in these kinds of films. And so, maybe even somebody like an agent or said, hey, is anybody, topless in it? I don't know what it was all about, but I just know that I drank a jar of that liquor they make down in the South.
Moonshine? Or that's what they... Yes.
Oh, no.
Because it was a Bible Belt. There was no alcohol. You had to get it from someone. So they had moonshine. Oh. So I was like, after saying, no, I'm not going to do it. And, they just kept pounding me. I like, oh, we might have to replace you.
Oh, my God.
I just, whatever tactics they needed to use. So I just said, okay, I'll do it. So anyway, I knew that scene was coming up, but so I had like distraction tactics arranged in my mind, like, oh, Mom, is that Aunt Mary over there? When that scene came up, she just turned, and it was very fast. But that scene with the rape, we were all just...
You're like...
Especially on a big screen. It's
I
just
can't even
like...
Has Sam said stuff about it in retrospect, like either A, why he wanted it to add that to it, or B, he wishes he didn't, or... yeah.
Both. We actually met with him before we started doing these conventions, and we decided to go out as the three girls, and we needed permission for the photos and stuff because we didn't own anything. So we met with Sam. He was working out here at Sony, and we all met in his office and had a big bottle of
moonshine.
Ah.
And he basically said, I wish I hadn't done that. And he was, I don't know, talked into it. His arm was twisted
by a branch. Right. That's big of him to do. I mean, again, it's like we're talking about it, right? So I guess there's something right in that. It is disturbing and absurd, but we're talking about it. But speaking of also disturbing and absurd, your death scene, moving on to your death scene, it's probably the most violent and brutal scene in the entire film. And that's probably pretty much saying something. But can you take us through, like, what was the process to transform into the Deadite version of Shelly? Like, was it makeup, prosthetics, contact lenses?
Well, it was all those things. I mean, I think I was the first one. Well, Ellen had started with the makeup, and Betsy, when she saw what they were doing to us with the makeup, she talked Sam into this baby doll concept.
Which is so scary.
Yeah, it was very smart of her, but, I didn't have the opportunity. I probably wouldn't have thought of it anyway, but, so there was so much crap on our face, my face in particular. I think mine was the heaviest because there was a lot of experimenting going on as to what, the look was going to be for the Deadite. So I think you can kind of see it in the movie, like different versions of what they were thinking about doing. So, it was that combined with those contact lenses, which we could not see out of. And it was very scary just wearing them, not only because we were blind, but they had warned us, the optometrist who came down to the set to, initiate us for those lenses. They were thick. They had to be inserted and taken out in a clean environment. Well,
you're in the woods.
There was no bathroom. There was no running water. I mean, it was the antithesis of clean. But so there were a lot of things to worry you about, whether I was going to trip and fall or.
Was it you the entire time?
Yeah, because there's a ton of stuff that your character does, from the biting off the hand, the fireplace, the jump, everything. Was that you?
Did they have a stunt double?
I didn't have a stunt double, but I did everything, and then they added to it. So I did the hand chewing. I did the fireplace where they threw me into the fireplace. But then they decided to add a scene, and that's where Rob Tappert's sister, she plays me at one point being pulled out of the fire. It's a very short moment, but I can tell it's not me. But even though she's got all the makeup on and everything. And then there's another scene where I'm on the floors, all my body parts are scattered on the floor. Well, that is my head, but a lot of different people are playing other parts of my body.
That was going to be the next question, how they pulled that off, because you said it's your head. So were you guys all just under the floor?
They nailed us under the floor.
Oh my God!
Wait, when you say nailed, what do you mean? What does that mean?
Couldn't get out.
Oh my God!
So there was, dirt under the floor, and they just had to make it look real, I guess.
Oh my gosh, you're like one shot.
Yeah, so I was sitting under there with my head above the floor, and then somebody else was I think Rob was my arm, and Bruce was a leg, and that was an awful night because I had those contacts in, and they were shooting, and Sam never said cut. It was like, how much am I going to do of this?
And did you only have to bite your hand once? Was that a one take?
Well, he had some kind of a gizmo where the blood came through, like a pump that he had put into the fake arm. So I didn't get to do more than, he had one fake arm, to use. So yeah, we just kept, gnawing at it until finally.
And did you have to spit that white stuff? You did? Was it milk?
It was milk, just food things.
As a kid, I don't remember that much spitting, but there was so much spitting.
Wait, you were saying, so you were that night when you were all the body parts, and you were wondering why they hadn't called cut.
Sam had fallen asleep.
What?
And Tim, the cameraman, really nice guy too. They both fell asleep.
How is that even possible? Like, they're in the middle of a scene and they just, I guess you're just so exhausted.
When you're doing everything, you're setting up the scene, you're thinking about how it's going to be shot. There's just not a lot of time for sleeping.
And did you get any bruises or hurt, or were there a lot of injuries during filming?
I was, as I say often, I was emotionally damaged.
That counts. That counts.
When you can't sleep, everything's thrown off.
Yeah. I didn't have any physical anything traumatic. I know Bruce twisted his ankle, and Betsy lost her eyelashes, and she got hurt pretty bad when they were dragging her down out to the outside of the cabin. They didn't think to put anything around her body. They just dragged her. When I see some of that footage, like us in the car driving across that bridge, and the bridge is falling apart, I'm thinking that was a dangerous.
Because was that bridge really unstable? I take it that was a really, because
and there's a car full of people.
I know. But when you're an indie filmmaker at that point, like I'm just assuming there's so much on your mind that you're like, safety, we'll figure it out.
It's not like a big movie studio was like, watching every movie you guys made.
Which, and I'm sure big studios have people dedicated to safety on set. So I can't, so The Evil Dead introduced audiences to the character of Ash Williams, who's played by Bruce Campbell.
I think he's so good looking. Go on.
He has gone on to basically become, the face of the franchise. We were just wondering, what was Bruce like to work with while filming the original movie? And are you still in touch with him?
Oh, yeah, we see him a lot. I haven't seen him recently, but over the last 40 years, we've seen each other quite a bit. And it is like a high school reunion. We still text and talk to each other. I talk to Betsy almost every day.
Oh, wow. Oh, I love that.
She's really lives close, and, Betsy lives 10 minutes away, 15 minutes away. And so we do. I just texted Rich a couple days ago, Scotty. But Bruce is very busy. He's tireless in his desire to promote this movie and keep it going on one level or another. And now there's the video game. I'm sure you've heard of it.
Yes, of course. We were going to ask you about, because I know, didn't you and a lot of the stars provide your voices for the video game?
Yeah, all of us did. From the original, and then I don't know who else is in there. I think some of the actors from Ash versus Evil Dead, but I don't know about Evil Dead 2 or
Army of Darkness.
Yeah, Army of Darkness, right.
So Bruce has been very dedicated, obviously, to this franchise. Did he, even from the beginning, like during the original film, seem just as dedicated to kind of this movie at the time?
I really do believe that it was the energy among them, Rob, Sam, and Bruce. They just had this, it was a drive, a vision, I don't know. They were unstoppable. And Bruce was a driving force. He never seemed to get tired. Crazy stuff was happening where, like, we'd shoot all night and there was syrup all over our body from the blood, and I'm doing hand quotes right now. And he'd pull off his clothes and it would stick to his skin and stuff like that. And us girls, we were always like, oh, this is terrible. We haven't slept and it's so cold. And Bruce would just make light of things. He always found a way to keep the spirits up, and he's just a very optimistic, happy,
good-looking.
Yeah, I know. But Tim has a major crush over here.
Well, what can I do?
No, that is good to hear. And you had said, and I know that you have remained in close contact with Ellen, who played Cheryl, and Betsy, who played Linda, and that you attend conventions together as the ladies of the Evil Dead. How was that formed? Like, when did you guys decide we're going to be like almost like a trio and attend as the ladies of the Evil Dead?
Well, it's confused a lot of people. They think it's another movie. It was just one of those things where we were all moms and little things started happening, like Ellen's daughter came home and had seen her mom's face on a lunchbox at school. The monster.
Yes.
And so our family started to know that we were in this. We didn't really, it was not on my resume, it wasn't on their resume. I was still doing a lot of work. Ellen had pretty much just become a mom, and same with Betsy. And then Betsy has a funny story about being at a PTA meeting and somebody recognized her. She was horrified because we were embarrassed. This movie was embarrassing.
I would walk around with a t-shirt every day.
Well, but it's different. Obviously you've gotten to that point, but yes, I get it. At the time you were like, oh God.
And it still really wasn't even as popular as it was just beginning. The videotape industry is what made Evil Dead really popular, because people could watch it over and over again and smoke dope or while they watched it. And that is how it became so famous. But when we made the movie, it was not even allowed in the movie theaters. It was a video nasty in England. That's what they called it.
So speaking of like when it came out into the movie theaters, like, I mean, you mentioned earlier that like you're the one scene you didn't want your family to see, but like when it initially came out into theaters, what was your reaction? Was there like a red carpet premiere? Did you, as a cast, have a screening?
Yeah, how would you first see it?
They did. It wasn't, it wasn't like anything like what you would imagine a premiere would be. It was just some small little theater in Michigan, the Redford, and they had a red carpet, but it wasn't fancy at all. And I don't even think I was walking on it. Betsy wasn't there. I don't know if Ellen was there. It was very small, and then it was banned.
I was thinking.
I remember the first time I saw it. I saw it at the New Beverly. There's so many revival screenings of it. But I caught it, and it's really so much fun to see with an audience, packed house. It's awesome.
But I also get like that initial reaction of the first time seeing it, because we can come in easily and say it's the greatest thing ever, 40 years later when it's become such a huge cult classic. But I get when it was first coming out, probably being nervous about how it was going to look, especially with your parents there.
Right, and the acting was so, I don't know how to describe it. It was just very, like, I don't know. It was,
there's definitely a style, yeah.
It was stylized. Yeah, Sam would actually say the line and have us and move. He had it choreographed. Like if I said, "What happened to her eyes?" he actually walked, put his hands up by his head, and that's how he wanted me to hold my head, just like he was doing it, and kneel down on this particular word. It was very stylized, Sam Raimi stylized. It wasn't like, you were really having a moment. It was like, oh, can I do it just like Sam did?
So like very choreographed and blocked.
Very choreographed.
Wow, yeah. So 6 years later, after Evil Dead came out in 1987, Sam Raimi ends up making Evil Dead 2. And we heard that Betsy almost reprised the role of Linda in like a dream sequence, but she couldn't because she was pregnant. Was there any talk of your character coming back for a dream sequence, or is she still flailing around in the cabin, all those body parts?
I don't think anyone was having anything except nightmares about me. If they were discussing it, I never heard about it.
That's true. And then, you also had mentioned that you just said, that you kept the film off your resume for a while after it premiered. When do you think you started to embrace it again and realize that it had such a huge following?
Well, that's what I mean. When our kids started getting older and they saw the movie in the
video stores?
Yeah,
I'm trying to think of the particular one that was near my house, but it started to become like, oh, people like this movie. And there was a very specific turning point when they were showing the movie at the American Cinematheque.
Yeah.
Yes, we're familiar.
Okay, so Betsy's husband is also in the industry. He's a sound mixer guy, and some of his colleagues knew that they were going to be showing The Evil Dead, and they knew that his wife was in it, so they said, hey, I heard the actors from the movie are going to be interviewed. Is Betsy going to be there? And so Betsy calls up and says, I understand that you have some of the actors from The Evil Dead. Who's going to be there? And she always talks about it like they're like, going through pages and pages. Like there's only 5 of us.
Yeah.
And they didn't have anyone.
Oh.
So Betsy said, well, I live like 10 minutes away and my friend lives another 10 minutes away. If you'd like a couple of the actors. So they were like, yes. It was Halloween night. We still had like 10-year-old. I had a 10-year-old and she had a couple of kids too. So we pawned them off on our husbands and to go trick-or-treating. And we went to the movie. And we could not believe how many fans were waiting to get our autograph.
Oh my God.
Around the building. And we were just floored. And Rob Tappert was at that showing, and he kind of whispered in our ear, he goes, girls, they have these things called conventions. And we had no idea what it was. So we started, you know, the internet had just come and we were looking on to see what conventions were. And we discovered that they had things where people went to these conventions. So we found Ellen, and it was not easy. We did some research, found Ellen, and we all got together. She flew in from Detroit. We had like a retreat, a ladies' retreat.
In a cabin.
In a cabin, yeah.
My cabin. And we said, look, if we want to do this, you know, let's just get over the hurt and the whole betrayal of our bodies and whatever. And we had a come to Jesus moment and said, let's just go out and make some money on this.
Yeah.
We hadn't.
Yeah.
We really hadn't. And so we said, if we're going to do it, let's have fun. And if we do it as a threesome, it'll be like a girls' weekend. So we decided to come up with a name.
Sarah York.
No, Sarah, you're like Sarah York's hitting the convention circuit. No, that is so great. Wait, what year was, if you remember, that that screening? Just because I'm trying to place on my
2000.
It was 2000. Okay.
Maybe 1999. I think it was 2000.
So almost, 20 years. I
Well,
mean,
but that's
give or take, yeah.
good. That I thought you were going to say like it took like maybe till 10 years ago to come around, but that's pretty. I mean,
That's
like
awesome.
Yeah. So you guys have really been embracing this for probably the last 20 plus years.
Yeah.
I love the idea of all three of you kind of banding together and being the ladies of the Evil Dead. I think that it's just powerful. It kind of makes a statement. You kind of go together to these things, and that's great. And you're kind of like a unit, you know.
What do you think is the appeal of this film? I mean, like your own personal opinion. Like, why do people embrace it so much?
Well, I think it is a very good scare movie. I have to say, every time I see it, I jump at different parts. Even though, of course, I know what's going to happen, it has that component to it, and the sort of the naivete of all the actors or the characters is just sort of like, oh my God, this is just so sweet and silly, and I don't know. I don't know what else there is, really.
And when the sequels came out, did you go see them?
I have seen them on videotape. I didn't actually go to see them.
You weren't first in line?
You weren't the target audience?
Well, don't forget, we were really like horrified that you were in this movie. We didn't really want anyone to know.
Right.
But how about the remake? Did you go see the remake?
We didn't go together, but we all went and talked about it. And
what did you think? What did you think? Just out of curiosity.
It just had a more finished look. I mean,
it was a big studio picture.
Yes,
Yeah.
got a different vibe. You could really tell that the original Evil Dead was a bunch of kids making a movie in a cabin, and that's, I think, also part of the charm of it. But the new one just, it was a typical horror movie and didn't have that same charm.
It's like the grittiness, the like homegrown type of feel. Yeah, totally. And then we had mentioned in the intro, there's actually a new Evil Dead movie coming out this year in HBO Max called Evil Dead Rise. It's going to be going straight to HBO Max. Apparently, it's the first film that Bruce Campbell's not in because he was in this little like post-credit scene in the remake. Did you know anything about this film? And do you think the series can survive without Ash?
I don't know much about it. I sort of remember hearing something about that, but I don't know. Is Sam directing it or writing it?
Apparently, he is just somewhat like a producer, which makes me think almost like, did they give him some money so they could use his name? Like, I don't know how involved, or maybe he and Bruce are kind of overseeing it, but it's the first one where Bruce is just not going to be Ash at all in it.
Yeah, I don't know. People love his character, so it'll be hard to imagine an Evil Dead without him.
I can't.
I agree.
I just can't imagine. I mean, again, we'll give it a watch.
I want it.
We'll give it a watch, but it just feels like it's Halloween without Jamie Lee Curtis. You just can't do it.
Jason without his mask.
Yeah, exactly. You know, another thing that we mentioned, so there was, people may not be familiar with, there was an Evil Dead, the musical, that, you know, had an off-Broadway run in 2006, and since then there have been all these different productions, but I read that you and the other ladies had cameos in, like, the closing night performance of 2019. Can you tell us about that? Like, how did that happen, and what did they have you do on stage?
It was so much fun. That we had seen the play already on off-Broadway, because that's where it had actually started in Toronto, I think, and then it was in Chicago. I didn't get to see all those variations. I know Ellen has seen a lot of them, but there are some people who do it, who do the play down in Florida, and they invited us to come. So we came. We had no idea. We thought it was going to be sort of like a convention. It was more like a show, and we'd sign after the show, which was very different, but we still enjoyed it. And then on the final night, they said, hey, would you guys like a little cameo on stage? And of course, we were like all over it. So Ellen pops out of the trap door and, you know, says something, and I come on stage and dance with... I think it was Scotty, the guy who plays Scotty in that version.
I mean, you have your dancing background with the Vegas show guy, so you were perfect.
I was going to say that, but I was like, I can't pronounce the first name.
Oh, I can't pronounce the name, but you had the dancing background, so that's perfect.
Right. Paul Lacricchio.
Yes.
Paul Lacricchio.
Oh.
Yeah, no. So, and then Betsy cut. You know, they had all these trap doors and windows opening. It's very well done. The play.
I tried to get tickets in Chicago. It was sold out.
Oh, you got to get to it one of these days. It is so much fun. It's almost, dare I say, better than the movie.
Did the audience know that you three would be cameoing, or it was a surprise? Did they go nuts? Did they know?
They went nuts.
Oh.
It was a lot of fun. Yeah.
That is amazing. I can't even. I've got to find. Hopefully, there's like a clip of that, or someone shot it on YouTube or something.
Oh, there is a clip of it. God only knows where it is, but. It's probably somewhere on my computer.
It's along with your audition video.
When you go to conventions, what's the number one thing people ask you?
If we had fun.
Oh.
Hey, did you have fun?
And how do you spin that answer? Sorry, go on.
We say the same thing. We're having more fun now.
That's true.
No,
yeah.
hey, that's a truth. I think as a fan, like, I'd want a truthful answer. And here's the thing: people don't know, like, making movies isn't always as. Look, as a viewer, you can watch and say, "Oh my God, that must have been so much fun to do." But when you're in it, like you said, long nights. The director falling asleep on you when you're wearing contact lenses.
When you're nailed under the ground.
You know, when you're probably not the most fun.
Underground.
A random thing I wanted to ask you about as we, get closer to wrapping up. I saw that in 2007 you had a small role in, it's kind of like a mockumentary called Brutal Massacre Comedy, and so did the other ladies of the Evil Dead. But so you played a waitress, and you have this quick scene where you serve a slice of cake to Gunnar Hansen, aka the original Leatherface, and I think he asked for your phone number, you say no, and he tells you to fuck off. It's a great scene. What was it like working with Gunnar Hansen, just because as horror lovers, like, he's such a big name in horror movies, and any stories from that film?
Well, that was another low budget. It was a higher budget than Evil Dead, but I was really only there for a few days. Ellen had a large role in that. I knew Gunnar already from doing these conventions, and he was always just the sweetest, funniest guy. He was just joyful to be around. And so I was just thrilled that I could have a little scene like that with him. So, we just, I don't know. It was just fun. That was fun. It was easy. It was fun. It was really cold too, but...
It's just it's a funny, like kind of ridiculous, but I love seeing, like, especially any fan of Evil Dead, seeing like the three ladies together in any production afterwards is so cool. And then you add like Gunnar Hansen on it, and it's great. Like, we're kind of nerds like that, where we'll notice those connections, you know, between people from different horror movies and things like that, which is why
speak for yourself. You're a nerd.
I know. Sorry, Tim's not a nerd. Just me. We also wanted to ask, what are you up to today, and would you ever consider being in another horror movie?
Well, I actually was just in a sort of a horror movie. It was more of a thriller, but there was some blood. I did get murdered.
Oh, no. Hopefully not as brutally as Evil Dead.
I spent a lot of time like this, just laying there dead on the ground. But it's a noir film. It's called Abigail.
Oh.
I know that I'm pretty sure they're done. I did that in September, and it looks like it's going to be really good. I don't know when it's coming out. They keep saying, you know, soon.
Oh.
I don't know more than that about it. And that was a lot of fun to do because it was so weird. Like, I really wasn't a real person. I was a figment of this guy's imagination. And just getting inside that kind of a thing as an actor was really challenging and fun. Just a lot of fun. And you know, it was noir, so there was that part of it that was fun. Yeah, I would do, you know, I mean, I wouldn't really want to be filled with blood and guts or, you know, Caro syrup.
Or milk.
Yeah, or the eyes. But, you know, I would do it again.
That's awesome. And we'll have to look for Abigail. That sounds really interesting. Hopefully it'll come out later this year, or we could see it. No, that's great. We have one final question for you, Theresa. And first off, thank you you've been such a delight, and it's been so much fun talking with you and getting these stories. It's really great. It's like a dream come true for horror nerds like us. We have, and this will probably put you on the spot a little bit. It will give you a little bit of time to think, especially because you've done conventions. But what is one thing that you can tell us about your experience working on The Evil Dead that you have never told any other interviewer, publication, convention panel, or podcaster? It can be a tiny detail, it can be a huge thing, but something you have never told anybody in any convention or interview or story. And maybe even anything related to Evil Dead or even the aftermath, you know,
like someone came up to you and said, I named my first child.
I named my first child Sarah York.
Yes.
Well, I mean, this is not that interesting, but I don't think I've ever mentioned it. When I was on the set down in Tennessee, I was very lonely for my comedian magician boyfriend, and I asked permission if he could come and stay for a few days, and he did.
Wait, he stayed in that house that you guys all shared?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, how scary.
Wait, did he do magic tricks for everyone?
I don't think so. I'm trying to remember where we stayed.
Did you guys have trailers, or is that a silly question?
No. What? She just said they shared a 2-bedroom house.
I know.
Trailer, the whole.
Everyone had their own trailer with running water.
That's hilarious. Oh, no, that is so cool. Wow, wait, so he came down and stayed. Did you even, dare I ask, have any privacy in that place?
That's what I'm wondering too. Like, I don't remember having any privacy because the 3 girls shared the only bedroom. He must have stayed in a hotel. I'll have to email him and ask him. So that just made me, it was so like, you know, just the 3 girls and all these guys, and then to be able to have my boyfriend come down was kind of like, oh, that was so special.
I love hearing tidbits like that. Are you kidding? Like these kind of the random facts. That's why we ask this question. We ask everybody, by the way, and you'd be surprised. We've heard
Scandalous
sex stories. And we've also heard like they served this for lunch one day. So we've heard all through the spectrum.
But yours was a very sweet and charming
I
one.
like the sweet and charming stories. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, just want to thank you again, seriously, for so much for taking the time today to speak with us. We've had a blast talking with you. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, this was fun. A lot of fun. You guys were the best interview I've ever done.
Wow.
You had more questions that have not been asked or very unique, and it looks like you did your research.
That's Matt. Matt's our researcher.
Well, but thank you. That means so much because we want to, we know that a lot of the people we interview have talked about these things a lot. And so we kind of want to, ask some fresh stuff, let them talk about things maybe they haven't gotten a chance to talk about. But if anything, it just helps us because we're so interested because we love this film. We love your performance. And so it really makes our day to hear these things. So thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, well, take care. Okay, bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Happy Horror Time.
This podcast is hosted by Matt Emmer and myself, Tim Murdoch, and co-produced and edited by Jacob Randall.
We now release episodes every Monday, and in each episode, we either review horror movies that just came out or interview stars and insiders from iconic horror films. You can stream all our episodes directly from our website, that's happyhorrortime.com, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
And remember, our reviews do contain spoilers, so we always post the movies we're discussing a few days in advance on our social media pages, so listeners can check them out ahead of time.
And speaking of social media, make sure you follow our pages on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Happy Horror Time. We even started putting our interviews up on YouTube along with our horror short film, Come In. You've got to check it out. You can find us on YouTube by searching for Happy Horror Time.
If you'd like to support the podcast, please sign up to be a patron at patreon.com/happyhorrortime.
That's patreon.com/happyhorrortime. Patrons get access to our growing library of monthly bonus episodes and other fun benefits like ad-free episodes that are out a day in advance, our monthly newsletter, participation in polls, and autographed Happy Horror Time stickers.
Woo! And if you'd like to contact us, please send us an email at happyhorrortime@gmail.com. Tell us what you love, how sexy you think we are, whatever.
I'm Matt Emmer.
And I'm Tim Murdoch.
And we hope you have a happy horror time.